My name is Lena, and if you had met me years ago, you would have found me laughing at the smallest things. I was the kind of girl who believed that tomorrow would always be brighter, even if today was dark. I grew up in a small town, a place where life moved slowly, where everyone knew each other's names, and where gossip traveled faster than the wind. My family wasn't rich, but our home carried the warmth of love. My father, Kareem, was a hard-working man, quiet but gentle. He had lines on his face that spoke of struggles, yet when he looked at me, his eyes softened as if he saw in me all the dreams he couldn't reach. My mother, Salma, was the heart of our family, a woman with hands always busy, yet she never forgot to stroke my hair when I felt restless at night. And then there was my little brother, Imran, only 8 years younger than me, who clung to me like my shadow. I often thought of my life as ordinary, yet I loved the simplicity of it. Morning tea shared with my mother, afternoons helping my father in the small grocery shop we owned, evenings teaching Imran his school lessons. Sometimes when the sun went down and the sky turned shades of gold, I would climb to the roof of our home and whisper to myself, "Someday my tomorrow will come. Someday I will be more than this small town." But fate, it never listens to the whispers of young girls. From a young age, I had dreams that stretched beyond the borders of our village. While my classmates dreamed of marriage or working in nearby shops, I dreamed of studying literature in the city, of writing stories that would touch people's hearts. Words were my escape. They were the way I survived the loneliness of being misunderstood. My parents encouraged me in their own ways. My father often said, "Lena, the world is bigger than what we see here. If your heart tells you to follow something, don't silence it." My mother, more practical, would smile and say, "Dream, my daughter. But remember, dreams need sacrifice." I didn't understand then what she meant. I thought sacrifice was just about studying harder or staying up late. I didn't know it could mean giving up everything you love. There are memories from childhood that stay like little glass pieces lodged inside the heart. For me, it was the sound of rain on our tin roof, the smell of my mother's cooking, my father's tired footsteps returning from work, and Imran's laughter echoing through the house. Those things made me believe I would always be safe, always be surrounded by love. But even then there were shadows. My father's health had been fragile for years, though he rarely spoke of it. Sometimes, when he thought no one was watching, I saw him hold his chest, breathing heavily. My mother knew, of course, but she hid her worry behind her soft smiles. I remember one night vividly. I must have been 16. Rain was falling hard, the house smelled of wet earth, and I couldn't sleep. I got up to get a glass of water, and through the thin curtain of their room, I saw my father sitting at the edge of the bed, coughing, his hand gripping his chest. My mother rubbed his back, whispering prayers. Froze. Fear crawled into my heart for the first time. He noticed me standing there and forced a smile. "Go back to sleep, Lena," he said softly. "Tomorrow will be better." Tomorrow. Always tomorrow. In school, I was never the most popular girl. I was quiet, often lost in books. Other girls laughed at me sometimes, called me the girl who dreams too much. I didn't mind. Books gave me worlds where people didn't leave, where love survived, where endings could be rewritten. Yet sometimes when I saw the other girls giggling about love, about boys writing them letters, a strange emptiness settled inside me. I wondered if love would ever find me. Or was love just another dream too fragile for someone like me? But back then I wasn't in a hurry. I thought life had a way of unfolding itself when the time was right. I believed the universe was gentle. I was wrong. One evening, while helping my father close the shop, I asked him a question that had been circling my mind. "Baba," I said, "do you think I will ever leave this town? Do you think I'll ever see the world?" He looked at me for a long time. His eyes tired yet tender. "Lena," he said, "the world is vast, yes. But sometimes the most important journeys are not about leaving places, but about living fully where you are. Still, if it is written for you to go, you will go. Just don't lose yourself along the way." I didn't understand the weight of his words then. But later, those words would echo in my mind, haunting me, reminding me of who I was before life began taking pieces of me away. As the years passed, I carried my dreams like fragile glass in my hands. I applied for universities in the city, secretly fearing rejection. When the acceptance letter came, I cried so hard that my mother thought something bad had happened. My father's face lit up with pride, though worry lingered in his eyes. "You'll do great things, Lena," he whispered, hugging me. That was the first time I felt the sharp edge of guilt. Because while I was thrilled to leave, I also knew I was leaving them behind. My father's failing health, my mother's endless labor, my little brother's hopeful eyes. But I told myself it was for them too. If I studied, if I succeeded, I could give them a better life. I didn't know then that life doesn't always reward sacrifice. Sometimes it only takes. When I finally left for the city, carrying just one suitcase and a heart full of dreams, I looked back at my family standing by the bus stop. My mother held Imran's hand tightly, my father raised his hand in a silent blessing, and my little brother shouted, "Come back soon, Lena." I smiled through my tears. "I will," I promised. Promises. They're easy to make, harder to keep. As the bus drove away, I pressed my forehead against the window, watching them disappear into the distance. A strange heaviness filled me, as though a part of me had been left behind. At that moment, I didn't know that the road ahead would bring both love and loss into my life in ways I could never have imagined. Because fate was waiting for me in that city. Fate in the form of a boy with kind eyes who would steal my heart. Fate in the form of tragedies I could never escape. But for now, I was still the girl who believed in tomorrow. The city was nothing like my small town. It was alive, loud, and restless. Streets filled with honking cars, people rushing as if time itself were chasing them, neon lights glowing late into the night. For the first few weeks, I felt like an outsider in every corner. I shared a tiny dorm room with another girl, Nyla, who was friendly but lived in her own world. I buried myself in books and classes, trying to drown the ache of missing home. At night, when the noise of the city softened, I lay awake thinking of my family. My father coughing in the dim light, my mother's tired hands, Imran's innocent laughter. Still, I reminded myself I was here for them. Had to be strong. One morning, as I walked across campus carrying a stack of books, the inevitable happened. My foot caught on the uneven pavement, and the books slipped from my arms, scattering across the ground. Embarrassed, I bent down quickly, whispering curses at my own clumsiness. That's when I heard a gentle voice. "Here, let me help." I looked up and saw a young man kneeling beside me, gathering my books. He had warm brown eyes and a calmness in his presence that contrasted with the chaos of the city around us. His smile was soft, not mocking but kind. "Thank you," I muttered, my cheeks burning. He handed me the last book, his fingers brushing mine for the briefest moment. "No problem. You're new here, aren't you?" He nodded. "Is it that obvious?" "Just a little," he said, chuckling. "I'm Armin." That was the first time I heard his name, Armin. A name that would later be etched into every part of my being. We met again the next day and the day after. Sometimes by coincidence, sometimes because he seemed to be waiting. He was studying architecture, passionate about buildings and how they could hold stories within their walls. I listened to him speak about designs, about creating spaces that felt like home, and though I didn't understand all the technical words, I loved the way his eyes lit up. In return, he listened to me talk about books, about stories, about how words had the power to heal or destroy. Unlike others who dismissed my dreams as too idealistic, Armin listened as if every word mattered. Our conversations became my safe place. The city still felt overwhelming, but with Armin it softened. Love doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in quietly, in laughter shared over tea, in walking side by side under streetlights, in the comfort of knowing someone sees you, truly sees you. One evening, as we sat by the lake near campus, Armin threw a pebble into the water, watching the ripples spread. "Do you ever feel," he asked suddenly, "that we're all just ripples? That whatever we do touches others, even if we don't realize it?" I smiled faintly. I like to think so. Maybe that's why stories matter. They're ripples too, words that outlive us. He turned to me then, his gaze steady. "You're different, Lena. You see the world in ways others don't." My heart skipped. I looked away, embarrassed, but inside something bloomed, fragile and terrifying. Weeks turned into months, and Armin became more than a friend. He was the first person I called when exams overwhelmed me, the one who walked me back to my dorm late at night, the one who made me laugh when homesickness drowned me. But it was the small things that carved him into my heart, the way he remembered how I liked my tea, the way he carried extra pens because I always forgot mine, the way he listened when I spoke about my father's illness and didn't change the subject like others did. One day after class, he surprised me with a notebook. Its cover was plain, but inside on the first page he had written, "For Lena, so her words never run out of space." I held it close, unable to speak, tears stinging my eyes. He laughed softly, trying to brush off the weight of his gesture. But for me it was everything. I didn't tell my family about Armin at first. Part of me was afraid. My father was traditional, my mother cautious, and I didn't want them to worry that I was forgetting my studies. But I also knew, deep down, that Armin wasn't just a passing chapter. Still, life reminded me that happiness always comes with shadows. One evening, as I sat in the library, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Lena, your father's health is worsening. The doctor says he needs more treatment." My chest tightened. "I'll come home." "No," she interrupted quickly. "Stay there. Study. This is why we sent you, remember? To build a better life. We'll manage." But her voice betrayed her, weary, scared. I hung up, staring blankly at the books before me. Guilt clawed at me. Here I was, dreaming of words and love, while back home, the people who raised me were carrying burdens I couldn't lift. Armin noticed my silence in the following days. Finally he asked, "What's wrong?" "Broke." I told him everything, about my father, about my guilt, about the fear that I was being selfish. When I finished, I expected him to tell me to go home, to abandon my dreams. Instead, he took my hand gently. "Lena," he said softly, "you carry so much inside you. But listen to me. Your family doesn't see you as a burden. You're their hope. If you give up now, everything they've sacrificed will be in vain. You're not being selfish. You're being exactly who they need you to be." Tears spilled down my face. And in that moment I knew. I loved him. Love confessions in real life aren't always like in stories. There were no flowers, no grand gestures. Just two people sitting in the quiet, hearts bared. "I'm scared," I whispered. "So am I," Armin admitted. "But maybe we can be scared together." That was it. The beginning of us. The months that followed were filled with stolen moments. Studying together in the library, sneaking away to the lake, sharing meals when money was tight. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and somehow that felt like enough. But life never allows happiness to stay untouched. Because even as love bloomed in my heart, a shadow lingered in the back of my mind. The image of my father's frail body, my mother's tired eyes, my brother growing up without me there. And soon, those shadows would grow darker, threatening to swallow the light I had just found. Time has a cruel way of running faster when you are happy. With Armin by my side, the months slipped through my fingers like sand, leaving behind memories I wanted to hold forever. Yet with every laugh, every touch, there was also guilt. Because while I was building a world of love in the city, the world I left behind was slowly crumbling. The phone calls from home grew heavier. My mother tried to hide it, but her voice carried the exhaustion of endless days. My father's health declined with alarming speed. His cough became worse, his trips to the hospital more frequent. The cost of medicine was drowning them. "Don't worry," my mother said one evening, her voice weak over the crackling line. "We're managing." But I could hear the lie, and it tore me apart. I started skipping meals to save money. The stipend I received from my scholarship, the little I earned from tutoring, all of it I sent home. Armin noticed the hollowness in my cheeks, the way I avoided eating when we were together. "Lena," he said one night, frowning, "you can't keep doing this. You're starving yourself." I forced a smile. "It's fine. I'm used to it." He shook his head, anger and worry mixing in his eyes. "Don't say that. You deserve more than used to it." But what did I deserve? Did I deserve happiness while my family suffered? One weekend I couldn't bear it anymore. I packed a small bag and took the night bus back home. The road seemed longer than I remembered, my heart pounding with both dread and longing. When I reached the house, it felt smaller, quieter. My father lay on the bed, thinner than I'd ever seen him. His face lit up when he saw me, though his lips trembled with fatigue. "Lena," he whispered, his voice rough. "You came." I held his hand tightly, fighting tears. "Of course, Baba. I'll always come." For the next few days I stayed by his side, cooking, helping him with his medicine, playing with Imran, listening to my mother's weary sighs when she thought no one noticed. The house smelled of disinfectant and medicine, not the warmth of home I remembered. At night, when everyone slept, I lay awake on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. The question haunted me. Was I selfish to leave them? One evening I sat outside with my father, the fading sun painting the sky. He looked at me with tired but proud eyes. "Lena," he said slowly, his words labored, "promise me something." "Anything, Baba. Don't give up your studies. No matter what happens to me, don't stop. You are our light. Even if I'm not here, your tomorrow must shine." Tears blurred my vision. "Don't say that. You'll be here. You have to be." He smiled faintly. "Tomorrow is never promised, my daughter. But your future is. Don't waste it on regret." I wanted to scream, to beg him to stop talking like death was already knocking. But deep down I knew he was preparing me. When I returned to the city, my heart felt heavier than ever. Armin noticed. He didn't ask questions at first. Instead, he just stayed close, carrying my bag, walking me home, buying me food even when I said I wasn't hungry. Finally, one night I broke down in front of him. "I'm so scared," I confessed, my voice shaking. "Every time the phone rings, I think, what if it's the call that tells me my father is gone?" Armin pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly as if he could shield me from fate itself. "You're not alone, Lena. Whatever happens, I'm here. Always." Those words, simple, yet they wrapped around my breaking heart like a bandage. For the first time in weeks, I let myself cry, not hiding, not pretending to be strong. But love, no matter how strong, cannot stop the storm of life. The financial burden grew worse. My mother borrowed money from relatives, swallowing her pride. I took on more tutoring jobs, sometimes studying by candlelight because I couldn't afford electricity in my room. My grades began slipping. "You can't keep burning yourself out," Armand said one evening, worry etched into his face. "What choice do I have?" I snapped, the frustration spilling out. "If I don't send money, my father won't get his medicine. My mother won't be able to feed Imran. Tell me, Armand, what am I supposed to do? Sit here and pretend everything's fine?" The hurt in his eyes cut me instantly. I regretted my words, but I couldn't take them back. He stayed quiet for a long moment before whispering, "I'm not your enemy, Lena. I'm just trying to carry some of your pain." I looked at him, guilt flooding me. "I know. Sorry. I don't know how much more I can take." He reached for my hand. "Then let me help. Don't shut me out." And I promised I wouldn't. But promises are fragile things. The semester ended. While other students celebrated, I packed my bag and rushed home again. My father was weaker, his body frail, his voice softer. Yet when he saw me, he smiled as if I was still his little girl. "Lena," he whispered, his hand trembling in mine. "You came back again." "I'll always come back, Baba." But deep inside, fear screamed that one day, I would return and find only silence. That night I sat by his bedside, watching his chest rise and fall. I wanted to memorize every detail, the curve of his smile, the warmth of his hand, the sound of his breathing. Because I knew time was slipping through my fingers. Back in the city, I carried his image everywhere. In my lectures, I heard his cough echoing. In my notebooks, I scribbled prayers instead of words. At night, when Armand held me, I thought of the day he wouldn't be there to hold me either. Because if life could take my father, it could take anyone. The shadows over my happiness grew darker. And I began to understand what my mother had meant years ago when she said, "Dreams need sacrifice." Because to keep chasing mine, I was slowly losing the people I loved most. There is a strange cruelty in life. It forces you to hold joy and sorrow in the same hands, as if testing how much weight your heart can bear before it breaks. With Armand, I felt a happiness I had never known. His laughter softened the edges of my exhaustion. His presence was an anchor when everything else threatened to drown me. Yet at the same time, every call from home carried another blow. My father's strength dwindled day by day. My mother's voice became thinner, more brittle. Imran's letters, written in shaky handwriting, spoke of missing me, of wishing I could be home to help. I was torn in two. Half of me lived in the city, studying, loving, building a fragile dream with Armand. The other half lived in that small town, sitting beside my father's bed, carrying my mother's burdens, holding my brother's hand. And between the two halves, I felt myself slowly cracking. Armand noticed, of course. He always noticed. "You hardly sleep," he said one afternoon as we sat in the library. His eyes scanned my tired face. "You're pushing yourself too hard." I gave him a weak smile. "I don't have another choice." He reached across the table, taking my hand in his. "Then let me be your choice. Lean on me, Lena. Even just a little." I wanted to. God, how I wanted to. But a voice inside me whispered that it was unfair. Armand didn't deserve to carry the heaviness of my world. He deserved a girl who could laugh freely, not one whose heart was tethered to sorrow. Still, I let him hold my hand because in that moment, it felt like the only thing keeping me from collapsing. The months blurred. I sent every spare coin home. Sometimes I skipped meals, sometimes I wore the same old shoes until they tore, sometimes I studied with a pounding hunger in my stomach. Yet, when my father's medicine arrived on time, when my mother's voice softened with relief, when Imran wrote, "We're okay because of you, Appa," it felt worth it. But sacrifice has a way of hollowing you out. There were days when my chest ached from missing them, when I longed for the smell of home, when I wished I could hug my father without the fear of it being the last time. And there were days when even love with Armin felt fragile, like a flame flickering against a storm. One evening, as the rain poured outside, Armin and I sat in his small apartment. The power had gone out, so we lit a single candle. The golden light flickered over his face, softening his features. "Tell me a story," he said suddenly, leaning back against the wall. I frowned. "A story? You're always writing. Tell me one now." I thought for a moment, then began. Once there was a girl who lived in a small town. She dreamed of the world beyond, of love, of tomorrow. And one day she found it. But my voice faltered. But she also found that dreams come with a price. And sometimes the price is too high. Silence filled the room. Armin reached for my hand, squeezing it. "Lena, are you talking about yourself?" I tried to smile, but tears betrayed me. I don't know who I am anymore. A daughter, a sister, a student, a lover. I feel like I'm failing all of them. He pulled me into his arms, his voice steady against the storm outside. "You're not failing anyone. You're carrying more than most people could. And still you're here. That's strength, Lena. Don't ever doubt that." His words should have comforted me. And in a way they did. But deep inside I wondered, how long could I keep carrying it all before I collapsed?